open interview. You have the opportunity to ask any question you have to God's power, and it's actually yes, I provide answer. Please, you have three options of asking your question. Either you raise your hand and I call you to ask your question, or you use the chat box and I read out your question to God's power, or you can use the question and answer feature and your question will be attended to. So please do not forget, it's either you raise your hand, you drop it in the chat box, or you use the Q&A feature. Right, so let's get right into it. So God's power, I'm not exactly sure to pronounce the surname, so I won't pronounce it. So he's a program tech product manager and a Clear Global founder, Clear Global, Office Splash remotely. So I read his short bio. So he's a future work leader and an AI product manager, currently driving technological initiative to champion language inclusion for all through language technology and AI as a product tech PM at Clear Global, formerly Translators Without Borders. His experience with product strategy and execution cut across SaaS and AI solutions in EdTech, FinTech, HR Tech, and language technology space. Everyone with your emojis, please welcome Gospar to our meeting today. Hi, Gospar, can you hear me?
Hi, sir. Thanks. I can hear you clearly.
All right, so you can go ahead, please.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I think today it's more of a roundtable discussion with everyone, specifically around interviewing. And before we dive into the question and answers, I think I would just love to kind of share some, I would say, little bit of information and insights around being interview ready and being job ready technically. Apart from being a product person, I also fortunately have the opportunity to work in the HR space. My startup as well is basically a HR startup as well. So from day to day, I interface with recruiters, with clients, hiring managers, and there are lots of things that are not necessarily spelled out, but can actually help you make a difference in your application journey as a product person. And one of the first things when it comes to preparation, I would say is that people take interview as a one-size-fits-all, interviewing as a one-size-fits-all when it comes to preparation. And I think this is pretty much obvious in terms of the different stages of an interview, right? And then I think the focus for lots of people is on the questions that will be asked and the best way to actually answer those questions. And they forget that for each stage, there are certain things you need to actually give attention to basically put you in a position to go to the next stage, which is really important. So one of the first things which I always say, and I like to kind of repeat every time, is that companies are not looking for the best product manager in the world to fill their roles. So whenever a company creates a job to say, hey, we are looking for a product manager, they're not looking for the best product manager in the world. They're looking for the best fit. Think about it like a puzzle. So if I'm going to actually fill a space in the puzzle, I need the exact same mold, the exact same shape, that will actually fill that mold, fill that space. And that's what you want to be in the hiring stage, using your experience, using your skills. You want to be able to fit into that mold. And that's what makes you the right person for the job, and not how well you can actually answer all the questions. So understanding this puts you a level higher than others. So you have 1,000 persons applying, doing the same thing. So when it comes to preparation, you want to understand that for the stages you have, for example, the screening stage. The screening stage doesn't start at the point where they actually call you to say, hey, we want to speak with you on the call. No. The screening stage starts at the point where your resume is submitted. The moment you click on send. And you need to be prepared for that as well. And that means you need to have an 8 years ready resume. That's one of the first things I would tell people. I know we are speaking about interviewing, but I think this is really important, because if you don't get into the interview stage, then there's no point of getting ready for an interview, right? So ensure that you understand how to create an 8 years friendly resume. And of course, using the STAR method, which is the situation, the task, the action, the results. I think this is clear to everyone. but you want to either qualify your resume or quantify your resume to the business goals and metrics, technological metrics that the organizations you have worked with were able to achieve. So that this is really, really very important as well to get across the door. And the reason I'm saying so is because as a hiring manager, during that stage, I'm not going to look at your resume as a product person. The person who's looking at your resume is a recruiter, and there's a high chance that person is not a product manager. And so you want to ensure that you are able to work with a standard system that the ATS would recognize, have the relevant skills, because then the hiring manager is basically telling the recruiter to say, hey, I need this person with this skill, with this industry expertise, with this understanding, and you need to show that within your resume. Your resume is not a documentation of all your experiences. Your resume is a pitch. So your resume is basically your pick-me pitch to say, hey, this is the value I've delivered over time, in my experience as a product person. And that's why I'm confident that I can actually do the same for you. So your resume is basically to sell yourself and not to actually help people understand what you have been, what you have. Basically, it's to sell yourself what you can do and not what you have. So once you are able to do that, then there's a high chance that you get your foot into the door in terms of going through the recruitment team screening. The screening is basically to remove, I'll say, they feel do not cut what they're looking for. And so that point is basically in. And if you can cross that hurdle, you're in. Then you get to the screening stage where they actually speak with you. And at this point, you are basically saying, I want to be, most times this is a 30-minute conversation, right? So quickly, you want to be able to pitch your value, starting from, tell me about yourself. You want to actually go about talking about things interesting about you. So most times people say, hey, my name is this, I'm from this, I am this. And that's the common introduction everyone uses, right? And so if 20 persons are going to be in the screening stage, or 40 persons or 50 persons, what makes you stand out? So you want to be a differentiator, you want to have fun facts, you want to have interesting things that are conversation starters, that actually creates an environment for a two-way conversation. Because if you don't do that, it becomes an interrogation. And it's going to be hard for even the best PM to face an interrogation, because you need to be prepared to some extent. So you want to create an environment where it's conversations instead of an interrogation. So make sure that you have those fun facts, pick up conversations, create an atmosphere where everyone is eager to learn more about you and also hear what you have to say. And when you are doing this, they're mostly going to ask about your experience. So when they tell me about your experience during the screening stage, one of the mistakes people make is they go into too much detail, forgetting they're speaking with the recruiter. Now, the recruiter wants to basically match during the screening stage, match what your resume is saying to what you are saying. They basically want to know, are you what you say you are? And most times they have your resume opened up, on a different screen, and they're looking at it while you are speaking. So the most important thing is not spending 10 minutes talking about one particular company when you have just 30 minutes for a screening interview. The most important thing is basically pinpointing those key metrics, talking about them, and talking about, in a nutshell, high-level detail, how you worked from idea to execution and success and the metrics you achieved. That's it. So when you go into too much detail, you actually even confuse certain recruiters. I'm not saying not all recruiters. I'm not saying that all recruiters don't know about product, but I'm saying not all will actually have that understanding of product like you. And so you don't want to confuse them. You basically want to give them as much detail as they want to decide that you are the good person for the job, and then move you to the hiring manager who is a product person, and then you can talk product to that person. So you move to the next stage. You're basically in the panel. During that screening stage, you want to have really interesting questions as well. I think that's one thing to miss out. They don't do with smart questions. So you want to go with interesting questions, not about product, but about the organization you want to work with, culture-wise, the objective. So one of the questions I always ask people now, because I am the expert when I'm looking for a job, that's the reality. Most people don't see it that way. Most people say, like, please hire me to come work for you. You need to put yourself in the position of an expert and then ask questions like, fine, you have this opening. What value do you think the role of product management would actually bring currently to this role? The recruiter knows why they have created a budget. They understand what gap needs to be filled. And that's a really interesting question, because You want to tell them that, yes, I have the skills, I have the experience, but I want to know what your need is as an organization and why I should be coming in to actually fill that gap. Now, that's a really interesting question because they know that you have the mindset to actually deliver, and everything a recruiter, a hiring manager is looking for is basically a performer and not someone who will just take on a role, right? So that's it about the screening stage. Most times you have panel discussions, then you want to handle articulate, questions around how you handle product management in general. I always say this during interviews. You might practice with several materials out there, Google Prep, Meta, Amazon. They all give you an insight into products, but then these are also limiting your responses to these companies. Most times, if you are kind of interviewing for big tech, it doesn't necessarily work in a startup. What works in a startup is not what would work in Google. So basically, the answer you get uploaded for at Google is not the answer you get uploaded for in one small startup. So you need to basically understand what works. It's not a one size fits all. And that means you need to build your answers around the product management framework. So basically, the product management framework starts with the problem and not the strategy. You can't have the strategy if you don't understand the gap to be filled. And then you develop a strategy. So before you do any market research, you want to understand what is the general problem space before you drill down to a problem statement. Now, I can walk you through the product management framework quickly. So let's say, for instance, you talk about you understand the problem. How do you do that? Through market research. You develop what? A strategy. The strategy is basically now to solve that problem and achieve specific goals. And then once you're able to do that, you want to translate that strategy into a product initiative, which basically necessitates a roadmap. And once you have a roadmap, which is basically a list of so many things to do, you want to prioritize what you have on that roadmap. Prioritization is really important. And there's so many frameworks for prioritization. Now, a lot of people, when they ask them this question, they go about giving the Moscow framework, so many frameworks out there. But you want to show people that you understand prioritization and not the theory of prioritization. So prioritization basically falls under, you're looking at the solution you want to develop. You want to look at the effort versus the impact it will actually deliver. By effort, you're looking at the investment. You're looking at time investment, the monetary investment versus the impact, the business impact. How much am I getting back, the return on investment? What impact am I delivering to my user base? Am I delivering impact to 70%? Am I delivering impact to 30%? And I can prioritize against those user bases. So that's very, very important as well. After prioritization, you now want to go into further research. The market research is to understand the problem space, not how you want to solve the problem. Once you have identified the problem that's worth solving, based on your prioritization framework, based on prioritization, you now want to decide, let's research and understand the problem statement. The problem statement is basically a single body of work that would actually solve that specific problem. So you want to dive into research, user research, speak with the users around that problem. The users don't tell you the solution, they tell you their problems, right? And so to get the problem statement, you need to speak with the users around the problem space to understand what the problem statement is. And then once you have that from research, it's part of the discovery phase. You want to go into proper documentation of findings. If you did a lot of data work, you want to have reports on your data analysis. You want to build cases in some organizations to actually defend why specific investments are actually valid to actually solve specific problems and what you expect from solving those problems. Once you do that, you're able to convince your team you want to move into execution mode, which is delivery, right? So we have documentation, discovery also involves designing the solution, right? So you want to translate this feedback insights into a solution by working with necessary teams to actually make sure that you are developing a possible solution. How do you basically make sure a solution is risk-free? You want to basically evaluate data. data. So everything you are answering in the interview should be hinged around data. And of course, industry expertise and intuition is also valid as well. If I've been working in the fintech space for 10 years, there are certain things I don't need to use data for, except it's a constantly changing space. So that's also one really important aspect of product management as well. And you need to show that you have that understanding. Once you have the solution design, you want to move into development, implementation. That's where you have your agile practices. Are you doing PI planning in quarters? Are you doing Scrum weekly? However you want to do those, having a sprint, you want to ensure that you deliver working with your team, and you want to ensure that whatever solution you're putting out there is tested. While testing is going on, you want to have a release plan, your go-to-market plan. Put out the product to market, you want to go into analysis. How is this product doing? And then you come back with the results and then iterate. And that's a cycle. And that's a product management framework in a way that people know that this is not theoretical. This is actually an experience, something you have lived and breathed. So if you actually go theoretical about explaining certain things, it's always normal for recruiters to say, hey, he has a sound theory, but we don't think he has the experience to actually execute. So I think these are some of the things you need to know. Build your answers around the product management framework when you're actually speaking with product persons, the senior product manager. And so after this interview stage, you usually move to the C-suite, the leadership team. You can move to the head of sales, who's not a product person, right? Most times they want to see something different, and you want to actually speak about certain attributes that will actually make you succeed within the organization. So it can be can be actually the CEO as well. So one of the most important things in product is not just strategy. Strategy is valued by the product org, but outside, you want to actually hit on some of the things that they see really important. Number one, a bias for action. I think this is one of the most important things. Most times we talk about strategy. For the CEO, strategy is basically a plan. And that's why we have this issue of the organ-driven development. They want to actually just see something happen, right? So you want to actually show that I'm someone that can actually get the job done. I can take ideas to a proper solution to execute them. So a bias for action is one of them. The ability to de-risk things. So they are making an investment in the product organization. They're making an investment in you. Hey, you have a budget of, for example, $2 million to actually build 2-3 product lines, and we want these product lines to bring in $50 million each. Now that's massive, and they're trusting you with that. How can you tell them that, yes, with these initiatives, I can actually lead them, I can de-risk them, and that's built on data and industry expertise and support. When you're able to do these things, I think you're able to actually easily get the right support from the right person internally to actually move further in process. One thing you also know is you need to research the persons you're speaking with. Don't just go into interviews like that. Understand their background and how best to position yourself using your experience. So this is the high level of interviews, and I can now open the floor to questions in regards to handling products interviews. So yeah, Esther, do you think we have questions in regards to that?
Nobody has dropped any question, right? But then please, yep. If you have any questions, please can we raise your hand so Gospel can take them from there. Can anybody hear me?
You can
Yes,
just
Esther, I can hear you.
dive into some
All right.
really interesting questions that might come up along the line in regards to product interviews. Yeah, I can hear.
I'm sorry. Stella, do you want to ask a question? If not, please can you mute your mic, please? Oh yeah.
I
Okay.
wanted to ask a question.
All right, please. Go ahead.
Thank you for your
All
wonderful
right. So,
presentation. I
yeah, good
actually
evening.
transitioning. I actually started transitioning to product management October last year, and I have an interview on Thursday for volunteering position. I've done like I've done like two interviews, but I wasn't called. I don't know because I don't have experience. My question is, for someone that is new like me, what are my chances of getting a PM role, even if it's for a volunteer opportunity? And how do I approach such interview? Because maybe I'm not professional enough. Is there a site that I can go and study this interview process? Or I don't really know what to do so that I can at least get a volunteering opportunity so that I can build my skills and experience in product management. Hello, did
All
you hear
right.
me?
Thanks for that question, Coaching. I think it's a journey, and one of the things I usually
Yeah, I
work
can
with.
hear you.
Yeah, I
Okay,
do.
that's fine.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So yeah, I was saying it's a journey, and one of the things I usually tell people is when you are actually breaking into product management, it's a lot more difficult. And that's because number one, product management is a strategic role as well as a role we execute, right? And so normally there's bias towards strategy, right? Experienced PMs who have a lot of insight in regards to strategy and execution. So how can you actually get to that point where you're transitioning? Number one is to see things as a journey in terms of there are lots of things you have been doing in the past that are also relevant to product management, and that's because product management is actually a broad space, and so you want to actually not see yourself as someone who's starting from the scratch. You want to identify transferable skills that you have got over time and use that as a stepping
Okay.
Hello, Gospa. Okay.
stone for yourself
Hello, Gospa. Can you hear me?
as someone who's looking to transition to product management. I myself, I didn't start from product management proper. I was actually a product marketing manager, which is close to product management, and then switched. Before product marketing management, I was actually into tech sales before I switched. So basically, it's a journey where you make all this move. Yeah, can you hear me, Esther?
Yes, I can
I
now.
can hear you.
But your network
It's breaking.
kept going and coming. Can you hear me now?
So I think
All right, just
there's a lag
yeah, I can hear you.
and
You go to please. Can you mute your mic so I can get Gospa? Thank you.
Okay.
Can you hear me now, Gospa?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's clear. So you can continue, but I think we lost you from that part of
Yeah.
you switching roles before getting to product management.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was speaking about
Alright.
transferable skills. Basically, so for example, you have been doing a lot of things, and say, for example, you get to 30% expertise or understanding of that area, and then you just dump it and you start with something new from 0% again. I don't think that's the way to go about it. Think about it as a journey, a cumulative effort. So you want to walk back in time and identify those things you are doing that's close to product, to basically connect them with your desire to actually transition when you're speaking with people. Make it clear to them, hey, I've been in, for example, product marketing, and one of the areas, the frameworks of product management is also go to market. And I think this is one of my strengths as well. And I can actually leverage this. I've been a customer success manager and I always interface with, customers. And that's why I feel in my role as a product person, I'm able to actually interface better with customers and understand the problem, the pain points, and where it bites them in their shoes, right? That's building on your previous experience to actually skill. And if you're not doing that, then you're leaving a lot on the table in terms of you are leaving out a lot of experience because it doesn't have the title of product management. So technically, people say product manager is a firefighter. Technically, at the end of the day, you do a lot of things, especially in the startup scene. You wear several hats. So don't limit yourself to just road mapping, creating case studies, and all those things. If you have a design experience, you want to bring it in and actually connect it with your role. Also, while you are interviewing, it's also really very important to understand that it doesn't stop you from upskilling. So you talked about how to get volunteer opportunities. So for example, there are open source projects out there, and most of these open source projects out there needs project management skills. You want to go out there and search for them, GitHub, on Twitter, ask the relevant persons, make searches to say, hey, what are the existing open source projects I can actually contribute to and gain valuable experience I can add to my resume. Open source is also one good way to get the experience that would get your foot in the door. Beside open source, there are virtual internships. For example, Deforage is one of them. Deforage is THEFORAGE. Gives you a lot of virtual experiences from amazing organizations like Microsoft, PwC, and more. And it's going to actually help you go a step further, when it comes to preparing yourself for entry-level roles or internships as well, paid or unpaid. I don't know, does this help, Ugochi? Yes, the forage, thanks.
Yes, it does. Please, I didn't get that spelling. Please, can you spell it again?
Yeah, it has
It's in
been
the
shared
chat
on the
box.
chat.
Yeah, so you could just check
Okay,
there.
okay. Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks.
All right,
Do
Gospel.
we
So I have a
still have?
question for you
Yeah.
before you proceed, right? So you mentioned something about ensuring that interviews are conversational instead of interrogation. But then the format in which interviews go, just like you ask me a question and answer you, then you ask me another question and answer. So how do you ensure that you get to have conversations with your interviewer without sounding unprofessional, right? And still ensuring that you have that professional look, or the interview is more relaxed and you guys are just conversing and that you're telling them about what you can do and selling yourself. You're also enjoying yourself during the interview, basically.
Awesome. That's a really interesting question. And so one of the things I like to say is that people don't like to talk about themselves or don't know how to talk about themselves. And that's the reality. That's because we don't really talk about ourselves that much. For example, if I do so, it's going to seem like, hey, I'm bragging. Somehow in my mind, I'm going to feel that. And it makes me not want to talk about myself. But I discovered lately that it's always important to actually prepare yourself to talk about yourself. If not, you can't do it well. So have a structured way to actually introduce yourself. Don't just go there and hope to talk about yourself. Have a structured way. So I myself, I have a structured way. I've been working remotely for a long time, and over time I've experienced a lot of things. And so when I jump into a call, the first thing I do is I set the mood, the environment for having a two-way conversation. So I did prep someone who was an engineer when he was actually interviewing with a large company as well, in the US and the UK. And so basically, this guy, he was all professional and everything. I was like, when you go in, have fun facts. And one of his fun facts was that he liked to eat. And down the interviewer was asking him between Ghanaian jollof and Nigerian jollof, which was actually better. And he actually went there for an engineering role, basically, right? So you create the mood, and then you also control the room. That's one thing you need to understand. So if you don't have the mindset of I am the expert here, I'm not saying you should be rude, but if you don't have the mindset of I am the expert here, then there's a huge chance you are going to be flinged everywhere, to be honest. Ever since I've been interviewing, I have always had that mindset, even as a person who is a junior. And the reason being you consider yourself as an expert doesn't mean you know everything. It means that when a company hire you, I myself as a founder, I hire people as well. I have a team. I hire them to tell me what to do. I won't pay you so that I can tell you what to do every single time. That wouldn't work. And I'm not going to hire you if I see that that's what's going to happen, right? And so by controlling the room, you want to show someone that you have as enough knowledge to actually take the initiative. And how can you do that? Number one, by having a sense of an aura of confidence. So some people come into the interview rooms and they're just quiet, waiting for questions. So I actually pick up conversations with people. So, hey, hi, where are you? What's the weather like? What state are you in? Cool. And then once you come to tell me about yourself, that's an opportunity to actually talk about yourself and not just all your experiences, which people actually do. So myself, I've gone to interviews and I've said, hey, I play chess and I play chess professionally with the World Chess Federation. And most times, initially, I thought, why would you even say that? But then along the line, I discovered that people are beyond their jobs. That's the reality. And they also have things that interest them. I had an interview, and then the person was actually a ski champion. And he was like, yeah, I love this stuff, and I would do this stuff. The whole interview, the whole environment became really calm and friendly. And then it's not an interrogation. What I'm trying to say is, if you actually set the tone, then you see that most times, with most people, except the person has a personal issue, most people would actually be friendly to you and have conversations with you. And why this is important is you will also want to show indirectly they're actually looking, is this someone we can actually work with? To be honest, they're actually doing that. They're checking that, but you wouldn't know. So if you're not friendly, if you're not speaking up, they wouldn't consider you as someone who can actually hold that specific role, because your ability to actually hold conversations show a degree of emotional intelligence. It means aside products, aside taking instructions, I can actually take initiative, I can actually bond with people, I can actually form professional relationship, I can actually handle customer conversations effectively. And that's what you're showing unconsciously when you control the room. And so, like I was saying, you are waiting for that question, tell me about yourself, is an opportunity for you to pitch yourself. So you have to eat it. You have to be ready for it. You have to be prepared for it, right? Tell me about yourself is not just about your professional stuff. Talk about your life. Talk about fun facts about you. One fun fact about me, I usually tell people every time, I'm a twin, right? And I tell people, hey, I'm a twin. So we all have interesting stories, and it's up to you to own your story to actually build a really interesting conversation. And that's one thing people don't really actually capitalize on. And if you can actually capitalize on that, then you see yourself having more interesting interviews, more friendly conversations. Of course, know when to follow up as well and how to follow up as well. That's really important as well. And of course, if you do all of these things and you see yourself still be interrogated, you need to understand that it's always okay to say, give me a few seconds, let me think about this. And the reason being is that we are in a space where no one actually knows what they're doing. Uh, Things are actually changing, right? The model you use today would go outdated in a few months. You might not know, you have to make an update. And people don't always have the answer. And it's really important to understand that you can tell people, hey, I need to process this. A minimum of 10, 20 seconds instead of jumping into just answering and then fidgeting and then stumbling. Process, organize your thought process in few seconds and then start speaking and do the same thing while you're actually going. If possible, take notes as well. There's no crime in taking notes. Hey, I'm taking the notes. I'm writing down so that I can organize my thought process. The moment you are scared to actually take notes, it tells them a lot. So I've been with lots of like really amazing CEOs that run really big companies, and I found myself telling them, I was actually younger then, I found myself telling them, hey, this is where I can help you. It was really crazy to me, but at the end of the day, I got the job. And I got to work with PMs that I've worked with some of the largest Fortune 500s out there as an APM. So you have to position yourself as the person who can deliver value. If you don't do that, then no one sees the value in bringing you on board, because they want someone to contribute. They want someone to take off the load from their hands. And that's why I'm hiring an extra PM on the team, right? As a hiring manager. So it's very important to position yourself as that person. Show them where you can add value. So yeah, I think this should help in regards to how to create an environment where you have a two-way conversation.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you very much, God's Power. But someone asked here, Latifat asked if fun facts can be long. Like that means you said mentioned something about talking about fun facts about you. So she asked if fun facts can be long. I don't know if you got that question.
Yeah, I got the
All right.
question. Fun fact. So I don't think fun facts should be long. most times when they tell me about yourself, you don't want to take all the time discussing that. You want to just hit on things that would actually create a conversation starter. That's one of the things you want to do. So if I tell you I'm a professional chess player right now your understanding is that people play chess for fun. Me, I play it as a competition, right? And people are like, wow, that's really interesting. How did you start chess, right? So basically, chess actually led me to product management, because even when I talk about strategy, I talk about my understanding of chess and how that helps me stay 5 steps ahead. You need to connect your daily life with how you came about products, how you actually work on some of these things, what made you interested in actually doing product, and how it helps you succeed as well. So this creates an actual conversation, and most times you find out that those persons on your team actually, or within the panel, also play chess, and they're like, cool, we play chess, and then the conversation starts. Oh, hey, I love photography, and the person is like, cool, I love photography. Conversation starts. And that's how you want to do it, instead of just staring at yourselves and then waiting for the question to come and then more questions to come. I hope this helps.
Yes, yes. She has reacted to that. All right. So people ops is raising her hand. Do you want to ask a question, Mayowa?
Yes,
All right.
I want to ask a question. Tabo said it actually.
Oh, I was saying, all
Um,
right.
Thank you, God's power. So far, I actually have a note here that I'm writing some of these things that you're saying. Concerning the being a two-way conversation. Actually, my last interview, I had actually had a situation like that. When I was introducing myself, I mentioned that I am a movie lover and I love to watch movie a lot. And so I probably would be the one recommending movies to team members for them to distress after a long day at work. And it sort of got the conversation started. The interviewer was asking me, oh, what movie do you like to watch? And I was sort of, telling them about what I love to watch. It even got to like a recommendation section. So it was a very good conversation starter. And it actually helped, to set the tone of the interview. I was tense at the beginning, but when I mentioned that, it actually worked and it was smooth from there. So that was just to buttress it. I have a question though. I want to know, say you're transitioning to, not really transitioning, you've been in a different industry all the while. So I've been in fintech, and now I am interviewing for a role in, say, health tech or logistic tech, just something like that. How, you've been in a very different background and now you're moving to another background. When it comes to, interviewing for that role, how do you sort of navigate the questions or maybe get prepared for that kind of interview?
Thanks for that question. I think that's really interesting one. So I've been across various spaces as well, across fintech, edtech, not health tech, but other spaces. One thing I do myself is that it's very important to understand that the product management space is all about being in a state of the unknown and then taking things to a state of clarity. And that's why discovery is part of the product management framework. And once you are having these kind of interviews, you clearly do not have certain experiences, domain expertise, right? It's very important to hit on your ability to actually organize proper discovery. And that means you want to hit on your ability to actually do intense research, understand things in depth by speaking with people. So it's always fine not to be the industry expert, but showing that you can speak with the industry expert is really important. So I've worked on some solutions for accessibility that were used by people who, for example, speak sign language. I myself, I do not speak sign language. Currently, I work on chatbots that speak multiple languages, Arabic, German, Spanish, so many languages out there, even African languages as well, Hausa, Kanuri, Shua. I don't speak Hausa, I don't speak Kanuri. But I work with industry experts, content leads, people who are good with these languages to actually develop AI models that are fluent in these languages. The idea behind you as a product person is understanding the product management framework and understanding how to use the product management framework to actually solve a problem in collaboration with your teams. And so most times I would say the fintech space is highly regulated. So I would advise that there are certain things you need to know. That's the reality of things for the fintech space. HR tech as well, there are certain things you need to know. So what you need to do is research about these specific areas. For example, with HR tech, payroll softwares, you need to understand the concept of PTOs. You need to understand the concept of leaves. You need to understand how they vary, across varying countries, nations. Understand those little details, okay? And then hit heavily on your ability to actually do discovery, because irrespective of the industry, the process of discovery doesn't necessarily change. You speak to the users, you understand the problem, you try to actually come up with a problem statement, working with your internal team. Sometimes you also interview your internal teams, actually, if you're building internal tools. If you're working with developers to develop a developer tool, you want to be able to collaborate effectively with developers to get an idea of the problem before then developing or designing a potential solution. So I think it boils down to your ability to say, hey, I'm an expert when it comes to research. I'm able to actually do quantitative research, qualitative research in all forms. I'm able to actually drill down into data at the highest level. There are several tools for that, business intelligence tools, there are product analytics tools. I'm able to work with these tools to actually convert data into insights. So basically, data is just a bunch of information no one can interpret. I'm able to actually show with this data that this is the direction we should be going as an organization. So irrespective of if it's fintech, if it's health tech, the data is data. You want to be able to say, let's synthesize this data and let's have a clear picture of what this data is telling us, the right bets to make, and then we make that investment based on data, based on the conversations we actually have. So when you are speaking with customers, when you're speaking with internal teams, every feedback you get is actually data. There's a motto I have: feedback is a gift. And you can use that whenever you go to say, hey, I'm always speaking with people. I'm always speaking with the experts. If I'm working on, for example, a financial tool on tax, I want to be speaking with tax experts. You want to talk about that during the interview. You don't want to go and say, hey, I understand financial reporting myself when I don't have a background in financial reporting. But you want to say, hey, I'm able to create solid relationship, long-term relationship with financial reporting experts, whether it's the reporting standard of the international financial reporting statements, or if it's the normal one we use, whichever. I want to work with them to create proper reports and understand the problems around reporting to develop solutions that would actually support them. So I don't know if this helps you in any way, but I think that's what I've done because I've worked across various fields and I always hit on the product management framework, and it never fails because product management is product management. But then with domain expertise, you need to work with the domain experts to always get that bit.
Thank you very much. That helps.
Right, thank you very much, God's Power. So I heard that you would outside join another meeting now. So unfortunately, everyone, so this will be our last question for the night because God's Power has to be in another meeting. So God's Power, on behalf of people in products and everyone here, so I'd like to say thank you for joining us again today. It's always nice having you. Like I always learn and learn and learn and learn. Like I can't get enough of your knowledge, basically. So thank you very much, God Power, for taking our time to talk to us today. And thank you everyone for being here. So I'll give it to Moses to like run us through every other event we have planned off for the month before I call it a night. Moses.
Thanks,
All
everyone.
right, thank you. Okay.
You're welcome,
Thank you,
God
God.
Power. All right.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining the call tonight. So we also have like other amazing programs packed up for you in the community. Next Tuesday is going to be the group mentorship session where we can bring questions around the challenges we are facing at work for those of us that are currently working, and also for those of us that are probably trying to transition. So we can bring questions and we would have like an expert with years of experience answer that. Also on Saturdays we have our check-in calls. this is just like, I call it like group therapy, right? Because we get to interact with other product managers, network especially, and rant about how our weeks, how our different week went. I definitely have a lot to say this week, but I'll wait till Saturday. And also on Thursdays we have webinar. I don't know if Latifa is here to talk about what the same as for us. So yeah, please just try and follow us across all social media platforms: Twitter, LinkedIn, IG, at People in Product Community. Thank you very much. You would also see links to join our Slack community. If you are not a part of that, we share resources from time to time. Then we also like gain access to a lot of people through the community. So thank you so much, guys. Till Saturday, okay, till Thursday, yeah, till Thursday for the webinar. I hope to see you guys in mass by Thursday. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night rest and
Thank
enjoy
you
the rest
very
of
much,
the week.
Moses, and thank you everyone for joining
Bye.
us
Thank you.
today.
Thank
Thank you, Gospa. Bye, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week, basically. Bye, Mayowa. Bye. People loves.